Welcome everyone. I'm excited to kick off today's presentation on finding the perfect balance in teaching. Our focus will be on varying the quantity of your control. We'll explore how adjusting your level of control can impact your teaching effectiveness and student engagement. So, let's dive in and discover ways to find that ideal balance. I tell my students what to do for every moment of the lesson. Now, this might sound like good classroom management, right? But it also raises a question. Am I a controlling teacher? Controlling teachers tend to micromanage every part of the lesson, leaving little room for student independence. While structure is important, over-controlling can stifle student engagement and creativity. It's essential to find a balance, guiding students without dictating every step. This slide connects to our overall theme of effective teaching, being flexible and responsive rather than overly controlling. So, think about your own teaching style. Are you providing enough freedom for students to explore and learn actively? To find the most appropriate and effective degree of teacher control for every lesson stage or activity, we need to focus on balance. It's about understanding when to give students more independence and when to step in more actively. Our ultimate aim is to tailor our approach to support student learning best at each moment. This means being flexible and responsive, adjusting our control to fit the needs of the lesson and the student's development. By doing so, we create a learning environment that encourages engagement, fosters autonomy, and maximizes effectiveness. Ultimately, it's about guiding students to become confident, self-directed learners. So when we talk about micromanagement, what exactly does that mean? Well, it's really about controlling the details, focusing on the what, the where, and even the when of every task. It's about having that minute-by-minute control, making sure everything happens exactly as you want it. But here, the key point, micromanagement often involves getting into the nitty-gritty of every little step, which can be both a strength and a weakness. It's important to understand that this level of control can sometimes stifle independence and creativity. So, in essence, micromanagement is about overseeing every aspect of work very closely and recognizing when that's necessary versus when it might be counterproductive. Throughout this presentation, we'll explore how this approach impacts team dynamics and what we can do to find a healthier balance. Does overorganizing really reduce students' willingness to take decisions? That's a great question, and it brings us to the concept of the micromanagement trap. When we get too caught up in controlling every small detail, we might unintentionally create an environment where students feel less confident or less motivated to decide for themselves. It's like we're micromanaging their choices, which can actually inhibit their independence and decision-making skills. This is a critical warning because, while structure is important, too much oversight can backfire. It can lead to students feeling overwhelmed or even paralyzed, fearing that every decision is scrutinized or that they might fail. So, the key here is finding a balance, providing guidance without taking away their autonomy. Remember, encouraging decision-making is essential for their growth, but overorganizing can hinder that process. It's a delicate balance that we need to be mindful of as educators and mentors, especially if we want to foster confident, independent learners. All right, on this slide, we're looking at the different levels of control in an experiment. We have three main categories: no control, low control, and high control. Starting from the top, no control, which is rated as level 3, means that the experimenter has no influence over the variables being tested. This often happens in observational studies, where we simply observe what occurs naturally without interference. Moving to the middle, low control, rated as level 2, indicates that there is some degree of influence or manipulation, but it's limited. For example, we might control certain variables while others are left to natural variation. Finally, at the bottom, high control, which is level 1, represents situations where the experimenter has a high degree of influence, often through carefully designed experiments where variables are tightly regulated. Understanding these levels helps us grasp how much influence we can exert in different research scenarios, which directly impacts the reliability and interpretation of our results. As we proceed, keep in mind that the level of control affects how confidently we can draw conclusions from our data. When you're in a high-control situation, it's all about being actively involved in guiding the team. You constantly help, direct, and sometimes interfere to ensure everything stays on track. Your voice should be heard throughout most of the task, providing clear instructions and feedback. This level of management means you're very present, making sure the process aligns with the goals. Remember, being a visible manager in this way helps prevent mistakes and keeps the team focused. It's about finding the right balance, being supportive, but also assertive enough to steer things in the right direction. This approach is especially useful in situations where precision and quick corrections are essential for success. Let's focus on the idea of limiting ourselves to a small number of really useful and important interventions. It's tempting to try and do everything, but in reality, trying to tackle too many things at once can dilute our efforts and reduce effectiveness. So, the key here is to be selective. Choose interventions that truly make a difference. This helps us stay focused and ensures that our efforts are impactful. Remember, quality over quantity is crucial. By honing in on a few proven strategies, we can better control outcomes and make meaningful progress. This approach aligns with the overall theme of effective control. Sometimes, doing less intentionally can lead to better results. All right, on this slide, we're emphasizing the power of restraint. Make no further interventions. Sometimes the best move is to simply sit down and wait. Let them work it out on their own. This approach is about stepping back and trusting the process. When you're in a situation where you have no control, level 3, it's important to resist the urge to jump in and fix things immediately. Instead, give them space to find their own solutions. This not only encourages independence, but also promotes their confidence. Remember, as an observer, your role is to watch and understand, not to control every outcome. So, sit down, wait patiently, and let the environment do its work. If you reduce your own talk and control in the classroom, you'll often find that students naturally step in to fill the silence. It's really interesting how that works. When we give them a moment of pause, they tend to become more engaged and start contributing more. The key idea here is that students will fill the gap that your silence creates. This is rooted in a fundamental principle. Nature abhors a vacuum. When there's an opening or space, something will always fill it. So, by intentionally creating those quiet moments, you're encouraging students to think, reflect, and participate. It's a powerful way to foster a more dynamic and interactive learning environment, all while giving students the opportunity to lead their own learning. Remember, sometimes less talking on our part actually invites more meaningful dialogue from the students. So, let's reflect on the nature of the interactions we've observed. Was the quality of interaction different in this new setup? Did students become more engaged and active during the discussions? These questions help us evaluate not just participation, but the depth and richness of the exchanges. It's important to consider whether students took the initiative. Did they succeed in taking up the reins and leading the conversation? This indicates a shift toward greater ownership of their learning process. By asking these questions, we're really encouraging a thoughtful analysis of how different approaches impact student engagement and autonomy. Remember, the overall goal is to foster a learning environment where students feel empowered to participate meaningfully. So, keep these reflections in mind as we move forward and continue to refine our strategies. Discover the power of lower control. When we talk about lower control, we're really emphasizing the importance of managing the fundamentals, the basics that underpin your entire approach. It's about honing in on what you can influence directly and consistently. Try it. Yes, I encourage you to put this into practice. Experiment with small adjustments, monitor the results, and see how it impacts your overall performance. Yourself. Because ultimately, the most meaningful change happens when you take personal responsibility. Challenge your CRT-NTIS. This is a call to question what you think you already know. Sometimes, our assumptions limit us more than external obstacles do. By challenging those certainties, you open the door to new possibilities and growth. So remember, mastering lower control and questioning your certainties are powerful tools to unlock your potential. Use them, experiment, and see where they can take you.